Welcome to Soul Rising. We're your hosts, Amy and Erin. We're two everyday mediums who are passionate about taking the woo-woo out of spirituality and bringing it down to earth. So put the kettle on, grab a chair, and join us. Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, or wherever you are in the world, whenever you...
It's morning for us, so that's what
It's morning for us, and we've got all the coffee and all the smoothie bowls to keep us going.
Yeah, so excuse me if I'm just having a little bit.
That's okay. I was sharing with Erin, like, I'm not messing around this morning. I brought the whole coffee press to my desk today. So yeah, so we're excited to be back. We haven't seen each other in 2 months, as we meet every 2 months now to record.
That's right. It's been that long, eh?
Yeah, and after today will be like mid-September, which is like crazy.
That's wild when you think.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So it's been what, like mid-May since we've last seen each other. So what's been happening? What's been happening?
I don't know, not a ton. I got the Saskatoon sweater for my Saskatoon roots. So it's got a little Saskatoon berry pie on it for our listeners, and on the back it's got Saskatoon berry pie.
I love it. It's cute.
Thanks. Yeah, I was looking for something with like Saskatoon berries on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found it. So I treated myself.
So you went to Saskatoon.
We went to Saskatoon. We went to Saskatoon for my grandmother's funeral. So it was nice just to see family that I hadn't seen. Well, actually, since the wedding. So it hadn't been that long, but it was nice to see everybody in that respect. Sad, obviously. But yeah, it was a good service. I think she would have been really touched. Some older women that she'd been friends with since elementary school came.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It was really, really sweet.
And so was that Alex's first time heading to Saskatchewan?
It was.
Yeah.
So we went to the Berry Barn, which for anybody who knows,
I need to go.
That is like probably, no offense, it's probably like the only place you could go to in Saskatoon for tourism. Well, that's a lie. There's other places you can for sure go to. But it is just it's a known place. So I took him there. I love the Berry Barn, so shout out to the Berry Barn. It's basically just like they grow Saskatoon berries on this farm, and inside you can buy little trinkets, and there's a restaurant in there, and everything is made with Saskatoon berries. So
when you say Saskatoon berries, is there like a specific berry called the Saskatoon berry?
Yeah.
Oh, and what is it like?
I would say it's a little bit more bitter. The berry's a bit more bitter. I think, at least what I noticed, yeah. But they're like big, they're trees essentially, and these berries grow on them. And Costco actually sells Saskatoon berry jams.
Really?
So Costco, you can get Saskatoon berry jam.
I'll have to try some.
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never been west of Ontario in Canada. So,
oh, you should. Yeah.
Yeah. One day.
Yeah.
One day. I want to see the mountains. I want to go to the Rockies one day too. Well, that's fun.
Yeah, so we went to Saskatoon. Yeah, and took Alex, so we drove past my old home and showed him.
Yeah, because you lived out there. How long did you live there?
Ooh, I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. I think I moved there when I was about 3 and a half. And then I think we came back here just when I was starting, like end of, either was like grade 1.
Oh, okay.
I think grade 1. Yeah, so 3.
So not too long.
Not too long.
Most of your childhood in Ontario.
Most of my childhood was in Ontario, yeah. Yeah, just a few years. And then before that, we lived in Calgary, fun fact, so.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, my dad had a job out there. So we lived there for, I think, just 2.5 years.
So did Mom and Dad end up in Ontario because that's where Mom's roots were?
Yeah. That's where Grandpa was. So, and Grandma. So we moved back there. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. There's a fun little
facts.
Fun facts about my prairie roots.
Prairie roots, yeah. I don't have any prairie roots at all. Like, East Coast, Quebec, and Ontario.
Yeah. Also Quebec. Also Quebec.
Yeah.
What have you been up to?
Yeah. So just kind of like nothing major, like no travel or anything like that. But there has obviously been like new developments. I guess number one, I will share with this community because I haven't, not yet, because we haven't met since before it happened. But my grandmother passed away.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So that happened May 31st.
Mm,
And was like expected but not expected. Like
yes.
she's been not well for about a year.
Mhm.
Um, so like we kind of expected it, but it kind of took a turn for the worst towards the end. And
Yeah.
there's a whole story with that. And um, I guess I can share it here. It kind of ties into something that we'll talk about in another episode as well. But um, is it okay if I share the story?
Please,
Okay,
please.
okay. And
Yeah.
I don't even know if you know the story.
I
I'm not
don't know if
sure
I do.
because we haven't chatted in 2 months really, other than
Yeah.
like a little bit here and there on
Usually,
Instagram. So I was like supposed to go down on I think like a Tuesday because my family were like, you know what, I think like if you want to have a chance to say goodbye, you should probably
mm,
try to get down on that day, and I just wasn't able to get down on that day. It's a 3 hour drive, and it was something about one of my kids, and I was like, this is just not going to work out today, and I was like really stressed out and worried that I was going to miss the opportunity to go and say goodbye in person. And I that night I ended up kind of like setting my intentions and talking to her a little bit energetically, like
yeah.
not in
Yeah.
person
Yeah.
or on the phone. And I just said,
Yeah.
like if it's possible and if you're not in too much pain, can you please wait for me because I'm on the way
Mm,
tomorrow. And I really felt like she heard me. And then the next day I got up early and drove down and stayed for the morning and visited, and people were kind of in and out of the room. But at about an hour before she passed, the only people that were in the room were my mom, my cousin, and myself, and obviously my nanny. But at this point, she was like that day, like on that day that she passed, she was no longer like awake or consciously
yeah.
aware or talking or anything. She was medicated and
Yeah.
had her eyes closed, and so it was just us in the room, and we were talking, and I had held her hand and brought some stuff that my kids had made her and drawn for her and cards and stuff, and I was talking to her. And then we noticed, so she was like staying in a long-term care facility that was like a high-rise kind of building, and her bed was in front of a sliding glass door, like
Mm-hmm.
balcony, and we're all kind of near it, and then all of a sudden there's like activity on the balcony, so we're like, what? Because like it's high up, right? So you don't expect to see anything or anyone or and anyways, three mourning doves, three, landed on the railing of her
Mm-hmm.
balcony, which all kind of felt in the moment, when you see something that is spirit led,
Yeah.
you immediately get a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a feeling, and we all were like, this is special. Like there's something, we need to pay attention to this. This is a message. And my cousin had like lived very locally to my grandmother, so she would come and visit her like very, very, very often. And she's like, I've been here like, a few times a week for a year. I've never seen any bird land on her balcony, let alone three. And one of them was like peering in the window, like it had its neck craned, looking like right at my grandmother. And the other two were kind of just like looking around. But there was one that was peering in at her. And I actually have video of this, screenshots,
Yeah.
because we were like, whoa. And all of us had instant like goosebumps. And after it happened, my mother said, do you think this is a sign that it's almost time?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I do. And I also think it's a way to say that she's not going alone.
So, yeah. Yeah. Oh.
And it felt significant too, because there's three of us, there was three of them.
Mm-hmm.
Of everybody in and out of the room, we were the three that would have, like, the only one that are spiritually kind of open and believers, so to speak. So
Yeah.
that felt significant, kind of.
Yeah.
And then there's also been like a lot of people have talked about, like when I shared this story on my Instagram, kind of like the symbology of the three and the three doves, and like
Yeah.
religious
Yeah.
aspects to that and
Yeah.
everything. And I was like, yeah, like that's really cool. So that was an hour before, and then I ended up having to leave, and so I said goodbye. And we had literally just left, just got off the exit onto the 401 and got a phone call that she passed. So she passed about 20-30 minutes after I left. And I
Mm-hmm.
really feel like she waited.
Yeah.
Like everybody was like, Amy, she waited for you. And then when you came, she left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was beautiful. And so interestingly enough, like I never see mourning doves. It's not like a regular bird I see. I see blue jays every single day. I see robins, I
Yeah.
see those kind. I never see mourning doves. They're
It's
not like
not
a
a
regular thing
typical
for me.
bird, yeah, that just flies around
No.
all the
Like,
time.
well, I think like for some people, like I've actually worked with clients and that's the spirit sign that's come through for them. But for me, like I don't regularly see them.
Beautiful.
So since that's happened, I've only seen them twice, but I still feel like it's significant. So like one day about 2 weeks after she passed, I was recording a podcast with somebody. I was like a guest on their episode, and I shared that story that I just told you.
Mhm.
And then I went upstairs and I made a cup of tea because cup of tea always reminds me of my nanny. And I was sitting at the table and kind of thinking about her. And I look to my left and I'm sitting in front of the dining room window and there's two mourning doves sitting on the fence staring at me. And I was like, okay, right? Like the timing of that.
It's
And
that's
yeah, it was very, and then one other time about maybe like 2 weeks ago from now. So all
mhm,
of this happened within like a 6 week period.
mhm.
Same thing happened where I was thinking about her and two of them are sitting on the fence. So, because that's not happening like all the time and it's happened after I said something or, something significant,
You've
I
thought
really,
about
really,
it
really,
or you've put it out
yeah.
there and then it yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's like no, in my mind, there's no like, oh, well, it's just it's a bird that comes around all the time or, they're here every day. It's like, no, it's been very significant and once in a while. And so I know that's her way of
Yeah, coming towards
coming.
you.
And so, and I love that. And I've never had like any kind of connection to a mourning dove before. Um, but I ended up getting a tattoo the other day. It's still covered in like second skin stuff. I can't take it off till tomorrow. But I got this in memory of her. And so it's a mourning dove.
It's
I
beautiful.
love it so very much. It's a mourning dove with it's not as super bright as it will be once I take the stuff off because it's
Mhm.
healing, but there's two sunflowers and marigolds which remind me of her, and then the mourning dove itself has blue around its eye. I wanted that because she has blue eyes and
Yeah.
everybody says I have her eyes. And then
Mhm.
in the middle of her eye, there's like a little crescent shape and it's yellow. And that's to represent the moon for
Beautiful.
our intuition. So yeah, I think that she would love I think she would laugh. And I think that she would love it though. I think that she would be touched. So
Yeah, of course.
that's for her.
Oh, it's so
And now
beautiful.
I'm already planning other ones. I'm like,
Yeah,
I found an artist I really, really like.
yeah.
He's from Toronto actually and spent
Oh,
most of his time in Toronto, but he's been in Kingston for a few years.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, where I'm gonna do a Mr. Foxy. I think for my birthday
Yes,
in
you
in a few
should.
days.
Fox.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's sorry. I had a dream about a fox last night. Sorry.
What
You just
did
reminded
you
me. Yeah.
tell us? Tell us.
No one I don't even remember specifically, but I remember like in my dream I was passing just walking by a house and I saw this like it looked like a baby fox, just a baby fox.
Yeah, amazing.
It was super fast though, but that's
That
sorry,
stood
you
out.
just told I was like, I had that had a fox in my dream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, amazing.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think I don't know where on my body I'm gonna get it yet. Like I'm almost maybe thinking like
to
up
add to
here.
the yeah.
Yeah, like on the one side and just kind of leave this side
Yeah.
um without. But yeah, I was thinking of like the fox because the fox represents my dad, but also like inner child stuff.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
have this idea of a fox kind of like almost looking like he's running or kind of galloping, in a way from the side,
Yeah.
and then him kind of with his head upturned a little bit as if he's looking up, and then him kind of chasing three little monarch butterflies because that is
Oh,
another sign, monarch
yeah,
butterflies, and I wanted to do the three to represent my kids.
that's so
Um, so I think that's what I'm gonna
I like that a lot.
do. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. My husband doesn't get it because like he doesn't have any tattoos, and he's
Yeah,
like,
he's like
whatever floats your boat, but like I don't get it because there's nothing I would want on my body forever.
yeah.
But that's not my first tattoo. I have four others. A lot of people were surprised that I have other tattoos, but
Oh,
they're all
yeah.
like 20 years
You're just
old.
like putting on it. Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
hid. Well, like one's here, but
Mhm.
the others are all like tiny and they're on my back, or I got one on my ankle, and they're like ones I got in my early 20s just for the hell of it. They don't represent anything kind of really
Significant.
significant other than the my first was a butterfly. I have it on the back, like in between my shoulder blades.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that was symbolic of like being newly single and breaking free from like a narcissistic controlling relationship.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
even though I was still heartbroken at the time, it represented
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
free.
Freedom. Freedom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love my on my tattoos too. I feel like I have three sparrows on my sparrows, yeah, on my thigh, and they're all kind of just like intertwined
Yeah.
because when I first started doing mediumship, when I was meditating, I kept seeing these like three
Really?
sparrows. Yeah, yeah,
So three
three
birds.
birds.
Interesting.
And sometimes that still happens, and that's like their sign to be like, "You're good, go for it."
That's your thing.
You're
So when you were
using,
like before you do sessions, say,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh, so that was your sign.
that was my sign.
My sign always was nothing visual, but like I talked about this on a recent episode of my solo podcast. I was
Mhm,
talking about
mhm.
like how it feels when I connect to spirit. And one of those things that I used to wait for to know that I was truly tapped in and ready,
Yeah.
was that I would ask them to make my scalp tingle. And so I wouldn't start the reading until that happened. And I was just saying,
Mm,
those are all just things that we do to kind of validate and give us confidence that it's time to go. And like I don't require that anymore. I just go because I trust. But I was just kind of explaining how we can ask for things,
yeah,
to like to help us on our journey, and that's the thing that I asked for. So
mm,
I love that you
like
had the
that.
three birds. That's really
Mm,
cool.
yeah.
Um, so other than that, so that played a big part, and then that actually kind of plays a part into the next thing, which I don't even know if I've shared with you, and you might be like, "What?" We decided not to move till next year. Did you have a feeling?
Yes, I had a feeling.
Now, it's a really weird thing, and it's a really strange experience for me.
So how did
It's
that?
been
Yeah, how
strange.
did that unfold? What was the
So, like,
if you?
you guys know that we were a little bit anxious about putting our current house up for sale, as like the market at that time was like things were flying out of our neighborhood,
Yeah,
and we knew that it would probably sell in a weekend based on like the other ones that have been selling on our street and in our neighborhood. And we were having trouble finding something on the other end, and we
mhm,
made offers,
yeah,
and we were outbid, and we were just like, I don't want to settle for something. I can't find what I want. And I was afraid to put the house up. And I also had the awareness, like Spirit was saying, well, the thing will show up when you put your house up for sale. Like you have to trust and surrender, and that's what you have to do. But I was very resistant to it,
mhm,
and I didn't want to do it. And now I know that I feel like there was another piece, like my intuition was like, oh, it's
mhm,
because you're not supposed to yet. But I didn't know that just yet.
yeah,
And so the beginning of May, we ended up having like something happened with our bathtub, and it's like a long story, but we thought that it was a like one of those bath fitter kind of things
right,
that you can
yeah,
put over the original tub.
mhm,
That's what it looked like. So when we purchased the house, we thought like, oh, somebody's put a bath fitter up here. So in the actual like tub, like on the bottom where you stand, there was a piece that like was kind of like coming up, right? So it was like breaking off in a way. We're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
we got to fix this because water's getting underneath it. We don't want mold and all that stuff. So we got somebody to come in to look and kind of give us a quote on like, what does a new bath fitter wall
yeah,
piece
yeah,
cost? And the guy's like, this isn't a bath fitter wall piece. And we're like, whoa, what do you mean? He goes, this is a whole original unit. Like it's not like underneath this there's a tub and tile on the wall. This is the whole thing.
yeah,
And so he's like, this would have been, and it was because we found out after we had to rip the whole thing out that it was craned in, like literally the rope
mhm,
was still on the
yeah,
top. It was craned in the house. So when the house was built, then the walls were built around it, right? So there was no way to take it out. Well, there was a way to take it out if we broke it down, but there was no way to put a new one in.
yeah, yeah.
So he's like, you literally have to take this out.
I'm gonna have to read.
We did. Then it was just like an empty space. There was nothing underneath it. And we were quoted like 10 grand, and we were like, yeah, my husband's like, you know what, I can do this myself.
Yeah, we're like,
Thank God,
"Mm,
thank
thank
God he's
you,
handy.
yeah,
Um,
thank you, and
so
goodbye." Yeah,
thank you and goodbye. But that's what it costs when you have to do like, because it's like not just putting a
you're,
replacement unit, like
you're
it's the
paying
whole
for
thing.
materials, you're paying for the
The
labor.
labor, the plumbing, yeah, everything. So we like bought a tub, and we bought tiles, and my husband did that, and
Good for him.
that was 2.5 weeks of work because he had to learn as he was doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's our only bathtub. So we were like taking showers at the community pool. A family of 5. And like we were like bird bathing it, washing our hair in the kitchen sink. And I'm like, oh my God, this is an experience I don't want to do again.
Yeah.
My husband's like, yeah, next house we have 2 tubs. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way we can do that. So that was an ordeal, right? And that like took longer than he expected. Like if we got a company to come in, it would have taken maybe like 4 days, 5 days, right? But he was like learning as he was going, so it took like 2 weeks.
Wow, yeah. Oh man, that is.
And so that happened. So that obviously pushed us back to like the middle of May.
Yeah.
And then we got really sick. We all had like, I don't know if it was norovirus or what, but we were like sick for a week. And then we just recovered from that. And then we got all sick with what I believe was COVID, although I didn't test positive for COVID, but I was like very sick. Like I was like in bed for 3 or 4 days, and I had a fever that was like 102.5. And my husband's like, should I take you to the hospital? Like your fever is really hot, really, really high. But I don't know. I don't know what that was, but like all signs point to COVID, even though it didn't show up for me. So that took me out for like 10 days, and I had a lingering cough forever. And then my grandmother passed away. And so all of that together, we were like, I think it's not the time to leave yet.
Yeah.
And I had this really overwhelming sense of calm. And it was very weird because I shared before that like we were initially planning to like move in 2022. And then my husband came to me and was like, do you think we could stay an extra year? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
and I like,
I remember that.
I felt like the answer was yes, even though that's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I surprised myself because the answer was yes, even though I was like, that's not what I want to do, but I know that's what's right. So it was an opportunity to learn like what my intuition really, really sounded like.
Yeah.
And then this time I went to him and I said, I don't think this is the year to do it. And he was like kind of surprised, obviously.
You were,
but I was the one, but he also said, I feel the same way. And he said, the funny thing is though, that I want to go. And I said, me too. I want to go. I want the fresh start. I want the new house. I want to be close to family. I want all that. But something in me tells me not yet.
Not yet.
And it was very strange. And so
both just like
it was very weird.
Together were just intuitively you both felt.
Yeah, but like it just was weird. Like it wasn't even because of all that stuff that happened, because we still could have then put the house up for sale.
You could have been like, this is it, we've got to go. Like, you know,
right, like, but something in us was like, no. And it wasn't even because of all that. Like I feel like all of that happened to give us that pause to be able to stop and go, I don't think this is time. And we might not have heard that if none of that stuff happened.
It's a perfect example of like divine intervention or
yes, we're gonna make you real sick, make you have to spend $5,000 that you don't expect, and make you shower at the community pool. But you know what? That's what we gotta do. We'll do it. Yeah, yeah, you're right though. That's sometimes what happens. Sometimes when shit hits the fan, it's like to go, hey, hold on, pause, slow down.
Sometimes I think that's clarity. If you get sick too, like sometimes I've had moments where I've been sick and it's like, oh, I actually just needed rest. I needed to pause, and that's why.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like it's strange because it's not what I want.
Yeah.
It's not what my heart, it's nothing to do with my wants or my desires. It's like what I felt was right. And then, since then, and I just reflected on this the other day in a solo podcast, I was talking about this and sharing this, and I was like, just the other day it dawned on me, because for the past like 3 like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, I felt like exceptionally happy, like more so than usual, and like really in the moment, and just enjoying every day and feeling like I have enough time in every day, and like not feeling rushed. And I don't know, I just feel like really good and settled. And then it dawned on me, oh, that's because I made the decision. That's because I made a decision either way.
Yeah.
And now that I made the decision, my intuition, my soul is like, awesome, right? So the relief I feel is like immense.
Yeah.
I took myself out of limbo.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not like, oh, I wonder what if, like, I don't even have what ifs right now. I'm just like, this is what had to happen and it's good. And like, whatever happens, happens, and we will reassess.
Yeah.
you know, in the spring, in the late winter, we'll reassess, but right now I don't need to worry about it,
Yeah.
which is like a revelation for an overthinker and a chronic anxiety person.
Huge though, but it, like
It's
it,
huge.
it tells you that also, like, well, obviously you're very self-reflective to begin with, but that you're able to
Yeah.
have those self-reflective moments, right?
Hmm.
Take that ego aside and be like, hold up, something's, feeling off, and trusting your body, trusting your intuition, right? Using those gifts because it's not
Hmm.
easy to do, right? To say,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we gotta wait a little bit,
Yeah.
which is a huge thing. So like that's huge.
Thanks.
Good for you
Yeah, I
guys.
feel a little bit more
Seriously.
myself. Like I don't know. I feel like I don't know how to explain it, but I just feel like I feel more
Mm.
me, or like connected to me, because I'm not living in like la la land of like woulda shoulda couldas
You're in
and
like
we're
alignment with your higher self.
I yes, I really feel like that, which is very strange, but a good thing.
But that's good, yeah. Because if you weren't feeling that way, then maybe you'd be like, oh, maybe we should just move now.
Well, I know what it feels like when like, because this move in the first place 10 years ago happened without our say. Like, it was something that's his job was like, you're going,
Yep.
that's it, right? And like, I felt unaligned and like
Mhm.
uneasy for years. Like, we're talking like 7 years. Like, I felt like I'm in the wrong space.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not where I should
Not
be. And it
here.
was very, very weird. And then, like, eventually, I got to the place where I'm like, oh, but I am in the right place, because the right place is here. And so, as long as this is good, then like it doesn't matter where I am in the world geographically.
Yeah.
That is the lesson in itself of like the move in like the move. Anyways, I think that's why we were moved, is so I could figure that out.
That's a huge lesson.
Yeah. So now I'm like still reflecting, and I'm like,
Hmm.
what, where is home, and
Look
what
at
makes sense, and yeah, um, we'll see. We'll see what
you
happens.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do still want to move. I
Oh,
do.
yeah.
The
Yeah. Oh,
desire
yeah.
is there,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's always, like, when you're kind of working with your intuition and you're aligning with your higher self, I feel like there's always kind of room for like, okay, but are you
Yeah. Hmm.
still making the decision based on what's right, or like what you want? Because I think as humans, we're always going to have the expectations, we're always going to have like what we want coming in. And I feel like when you're working with your intuition, as we do like every single day, you get to the point where you're like, okay, but like, is this, are my expectations still coming in, right? And I think that's human nature, and I think
Yeah.
that they do.
Yeah.
But it all, if we have the awareness that it's there, I think that we can kind of work with it and figure it out. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I will tell you that I feel like in the like this experience has helped me become like a little bit more detached from outcomes or expectations,
Yeah.
which feels really, really, really amazing.
It's liberating.
Yeah, it's like I don't know what's going to happen, and I know that whatever happens, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, and it's really like a new
Yeah.
place mentally for me, for sure. So it's possible, people. It's
We can all
possible.
get there.
We can
Maybe
all get
showing us a
there.
little bit of hope.
Have you felt that way about anything in your life? Like, have you reached that point? Putting you on the spot, but
Just to trust.
yeah, just like, or just kind of very detached from the expectation, and just, well, you were kind of talking like how you were about your wedding planning a little bit. It was just like,
Yeah.
as long as he shows up and I show up, like everything else is gravy.
Yeah. Try to imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just like that, actually, that moment of detachment when I was previously trying to find Alex, let's say, person I was supposed to
Yes.
be with, I had a moment where I was like, F it. I was like, screw it. If it
Hmm.
happens, it happens. I'm fine with whatever will be, will be.
Yep.
Literally, I think a couple weeks later, I met Alex.
It happens, eh? That happens. That happened with me too. With it's reminding me of this, so I'm gonna have to bring it up. So you know about this book because you have this
Yes,
book,
yes.
right? So this is a book that I co-authored in, and I share my story of like living with anxiety and living through loss. And this is my grandmother's copy, so that's why it's in plastic, because she put it in plastic. And I received it in with some things that I got from of her stuff. And so I wrote this for her, and I dedicated it in the book. But one day I was thinking about this, and so I took it out and I was going to read it. And I was actually going to make a reel and read from the chapter, like the last paragraph or something, right? And as I did, and I was really missing her. And earlier that day, I asked her for a sign to show that she was close by. And as I did, I stood up and I picked up the book and I went to walk over like to another area of my basement. And a piece of paper that I previously had not seen in this book, and I had flipped through this book like 5 or 6 times before this, fell out on the floor. And it fell down like this, so it was face down. And then I turned it over, and I'll try to get through this without crying, but it's her writing, and she wrote notes down about what she thought about my story. And I was like, oh my God. But yeah, I don't even know why I'm talking about this, but because about loss.
Yeah.
And in this book, I shared about her, about after we had a series of miscarriages, and I like became like almost obsessed. And I feel like a lot of women can relate to this. After you have a loss, it's like, okay, then I need to get pregnant again, because that's the only thing that's going to make me feel better. And I went through that for like over a year. And then I had this moment of like complete surrender. It just kind of came over, and by the way, you can't force this. You can't force the moment of surrender. It just has to happen, right? Same as like the moment of surrender with this move and how I reached, like it just had to happen. And so I had this moment of surrender where I was like, you know what? It might not happen, and it's okay. I'm going to be okay if it doesn't. Like I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. And the moment that I let go, I mean, literally, I think I got pregnant that week. Like, and I don't know how that happened, but all I know is the minute that I let go of like, I need this to happen, to I'm okay if it doesn't, but like if it does, that would be awesome, but I released the expectation of needing it. It happened. And I hear that so often about like baby planning, and like just got big old goosebumps. All kinds of stuff in people's lives.
Well, when we give readings to folks, right?
Yeah.
I find that it's a little bit more challenging, not impossible, but challenging to read sometimes when people have expectations about what they're wanting to get, because what they might be wanting to get is a little bit different than what could come in.
Yeah.
And I find when people come in with just like, I want to kind of just see, and to release any expectations and just go for it, powerful stuff comes through. And that's really not to say anything bad about anybody who, if you go into reading, I have certain expectations. It's totally fine.
Of course.
We always say, put what you want to come through.
Set your intentions.
Right? But intention is different from expectations. Does that make sense?
For me, yes, 100%. Like I was just reflecting on this the other day. It's amazing. I was thinking about how fluid and amazing the readings feel when a person, like, because you can feel the energy of your client. Excuse me. Like I can always feel immediately, like if the person's scared shitless, if there's fear, if they're just excited, if they're like a total open book, like I can feel it right away. And the people that are just like, give it to me, like whatever you got, give it to me. It's just like, I find is the most amazing readings, because I don't know, it just feels like a really fluid conversation. And it's just like all this stuff comes through and they're like, yeah, I need to hear that. Yeah. There's just, I don't know. There's something about that versus like, I know you told me all these like 99 different details about my father, but you haven't told me his name. So I don't know if I'm going to buy any of that. Like there's such a difference between, I'm like, what do you mean? Like he gave everything other than his name.
There's things that I definitely would not know. And it's
so specific, right? Like,
but that I also would say that's even for mediums, taking our expectations out of it is really
that's right. Well. Yes, that helps a lot.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And I will catch myself. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll catch myself where those expectations do come in. So I'm trying to go further than
Yeah.
spirit's like naturally giving it to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, tell me more, go deeper. And then like, sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. And then I have to take a moment and go, wait a second.
Yeah.
I'm not being a channel here.
Yeah.
I'm literally asking for information. That's not my job.
No, and
my job is to receive it.
Spirit.
Yes, yeah, but I do catch myself sometimes, right? And I know the spirit's fine with it, right? Because they're like, they want to work with us, and they're like, okay, just another test. Because sometimes you'll ask something and it's like crickets. It's like,
yeah,
okay, thank you, spirit. I'm not supposed to, we don't need to know about
we
this.
need to know about this. I'm not getting anything
Yeah,
because we don't need to know.
yeah, amazing. Well, I love this unexpected chat about surrendering.
Me too. Thank you for sharing
and all
the beautiful story
of
your
course,
grandmother and me, and
of course,
all of us are with you. And
thank you. She is a amazing person. And yeah, that little note, that took me down. I actually made a reel like in the moment sharing about it, because I was just like, this is like, when you ask for a sign, like you never know how the sign's going to come through. But that took me out, because I'm like, oh my God, I know that she was proud of me. And I also see myself so much in her, because I label everything, right? So if I get a book, I write my name and the month and the year that I get the book, right? Or if I start a new notebook, or like anything that I do, I make a note. Or I don't know, like say if I got something, you gave me a book, I would write, from Erin, blah, blah, blah. Like I would do that. And that's what she did. And I know that I got it from her, but I'm like looking at this, like it was just a little dictionary that was in some stuff that came with her stuff. And it says her name, 1979, and then at the back, it has like a list of words. And I'm like, I wonder if these were words that she was like, that she looked up, because that would make sense for her. Like, okay, on October 3rd, I looked up the word inevitable. Like, she was just so sweet like that. She was a details person.
Yeah.
And I'm a details person. Yeah. And she like showed her love in details for sure. So we're gonna dedicate this one to my nanny.
To your nanny. Yeah.
And her name was Phyllis.
Phyllis.
Yeah.
Phyllis.
And she hated her name.
She
hated her name. Like I remember when I because I only had one daughter, and I named her middle name after my mother. And then I said, Nanny, if I have another girl, I want to give her middle name from your name. And she's like, please don't do that. Do not name the child Phyllis, please. And I was like, okay, maybe your middle name, which was Hazel. So yeah, but then I didn't have another girl, but my sister did, and gave her daughter Hazel as a middle name. Yeah. But yeah, she didn't like Phyllis at all. And don't you dare call her Philly, because she
hated it.
But I did contemplate calling my youngest Philip. I did contemplate it for her.
Yeah.
And she's like, please, do not. I don't know why. She did not like her name.
She's like, no. Yeah.
Don't like it. Yeah, but she was a sweetie, and I miss her very much. And
powerhouse.
Yeah. Oh my God, she was 95 and a half.
Yeah, that's good for her.
And up until a year ago, she lived alone in a 3-level townhouse. Pet cat took care of her cat, drove her car still, did all her grocery shopping, all her laundry, all her cooking. Before, like pre-pandemic, we would go and visit her once a month. And she'd like have things baked, and she'd be like, I just changed all the sheets and vacuumed the floors. And we're like, calm down, you don't need to do any of this. She was like, yeah, but she was just nobody would have ever believed that she was in her 90s. Like she was so much younger. And I was just reflecting yesterday, because one of my friends messaged me, and she's like, sorry I didn't message you back, I was eating Chinese food with my grandmother. And I was like, I cried for a moment, because I felt like that was a message from my grandmother. And I'll tell you what, because every time we went to visit her, she got out the Chinese food menu, like a takeout menu, and she's like, okay, who's going to get the Chinese? Like that was what we did every time we went and visit her. She ordered Chinese from the same place. And Scott and I would pick it up, and then we'd come home and have a feast. So I feel like I have to do that before we move away from Ontario. There's a place in Oshawa called Sam's. Yeah, called Sam's, but it's a Chinese food restaurant.
Okay.
And I'm gonna have to go and order a combo number 4, or combo for 4. Which, by the way, could feed like 7.
Wow.
Yeah.
We should go.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for listening to our updates. We'll see you next week.
See you.
Bye, Erin.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast and tune in each week as we dish on all things spiritual.
Don't forget to like, comment on what you would like to hear us talk about next, and subscribe.